afternoon, everyone. We've got a lot on our agenda today, so we're going to get this meeting started. Welcome to the July the 2nd Mesa City Council study session. All of our council is present today. The first item on our agenda for this meeting is to review the agendas for both formal council meetings today and July the 9th. So let's begin with the agenda for tonight's meeting, July the 2nd. We went over this on Thursday at our study session, but the first several items are liquor license applications, followed by purchase contracts.
Mayor, again,
Yes.
swearing in the
Oh, thank you very much. Right, I shouldn't have skipped over that. Thank you, yes.
Probably want to come up and do that.
Yeah, hopefully Her Honor isn't in the room right now and I haven't offended her already. But yeah, we...
So remember, the city manager took care of it.
Right, so yeah,
Yeah, but I think we would, usually at that point, I think that's done, right? We do after the vote, but
Right.
before, but do it right to the swearing in.
got it. So the agenda item number 1 on this meeting is with the appointment of Alicia Lawler as a city magistrate. So that will be up for a motion and a vote, and then my understanding is immediately after that, I will swear her in as a city magistrate, correct? Okay. Thank you. Yes, thanks for reminding me so we didn't skip over that. So just making our way through the rest of the agenda. Item 5 is various contracts. 6, various resolutions. Now included, and so council, if you have questions about anything on 6, please let us know, but included in 6 obviously are the referrals to the ballot of the various items, questions 1 through 6. Mr. Brady, we talked about leaving this on the consent agenda, but having an opportunity, perhaps in this agenda review, to just rehearse for the voters and for general information, maybe in a little more detail than leaving it on the consent agenda, what has been discussed in our previous council meetings and what the proposal is.
Yes. Shall I do that now, or you want to do it at the end of this review? When would you like to do that?
Why don't we do it now?
Okay.
And then we'll,
Mr. Butler,
any
you come
questions
forward?
with the rest of the agenda?
So, Mayor, would you like us to cover all of these items?
I think it would be good
We
to
spent
touch
some
on-
time on the home rule that's online. People can go and look that presentation up. Obviously,
Right.
that's to allow the city to continue to spend the local dollars that are approved by Mesa residents and by the council. We have the quarter-cent sales tax for public safety purposes. We've covered that. There are presentations on the city's website to review those. I could ask Mr. Butler to just, again, because this is the most recent conversation, right, is to review the projects that are included under the Parks and Cultural and Public Safety bonds. Would you like that to happen now?
Yes, I think it's been, a week or two since we've had this conversation, so it might just be good to push out as much information as possible. And then as you indicated, Mr. Brady, this information is all available online, correct?
Correct.
And what's the best place to go to find that?
The best place is to go to www.mesaaz.gov. The headings at the top, the one in the center is City Hall. When you hover over that, the Office of Management and Budget, the very first line item there is a link to the November 2018 election information, and the bond information is one of the listings there for that.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Butler, tell us a little bit more about, or just remind us what we've decided to do on questions 3 and 4.
Certainly. So for the general obligation bonds, there will be 2 questions. The first is related to Parks and Cultural, and then the second question will be related to public safety. The projects for Parks and Culture, first in athletic fields, they include Chrisman and Elliott Basin, Monterey Park, the North Center fields that are replacing the Riverview fields, adjacent to Red Mountain Park, the Red Mountain Community Fields, and then the Red Mountain baseball, softball fields that are located on the north side of Brown Road. In park amenities.
Excuse me, Scott, or Mr. Thompson.
Chris, looking at the Parks and cultural programs, the Chrisman and Elliott Basin, and can we just go ahead and scratch that one? I don't mind doing the parking lot there to add more parking so people aren't parking on side the streets and so forth, but just to convert the fields to soccer fields, I prefer we leave them as they are.
Okay?
for right now, because I think those are dollars I think that we shouldn't have to spend or don't need to necessarily spend right now. So in an attempt to lower the cost on the bonds, I'd prefer just to pull the Chrisman and Elliott basins off, go ahead and do the parking structures, or the
That,
parking
we've
lot
already
there.
posted the amount. I don't think it's more than a couple $1 million at most, right?
That's correct. And
So
the improvements are minimal. In fact, they're actually dropping.
Most of the expense is in the parking.
Okay.
The improvements to the turf is just, I think we're just dropping in some goals, but the capital side of this is the parking.
Is the parking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Which, with Elliott Road under construction, we really don't want people parking on the street. So I think that would be, for a lot of reasons, even if you just continued your existing uses and didn't say, soccer fields, just getting people off the street, or off, well, not even the street, the dirt alongside the street, I think we'll focus on the parking. And if there's additional funds that we can't use somewhere else, then that's all we'll spend it on.
Okay. That's really what I wanted to focus on, was just getting the parking in place so that
Yeah.
people weren't parking on
I
the sides.
think by far the
There.
majority of the funding that's identified for this, that's what it's focused on.
Well, so going forward, do we need to amend what's on the consent agenda to take out of it the portion that Mr. Thompson has requested?
I think we've done that, Mayor, with because previously we had a much more extensive project, and with the feedback, we've reduced this pretty much to the parking. And, yeah, and the dollar amount is 2.1 something
And I
million.
think too, just because we have the approvals in place doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend it.
No, it doesn't.
So you're
How
okay with
close
the way it
was
is?
I think it's 2.1.
It's only a great number.
number.
That's the number I have. So as we get to that project, it wouldn't materially make a difference in the bonds overall, so whether we did a goal or not, but, so I think we can leave it as, but we'll take into consideration concerns and address it that way.
Okay.
The next area with the park amenities, the first is the City Center Plaza here in the downtown area. And then dog parks at two city parks, Carriage Lane and Countryside Park, as well as the Harris Basin ADA playground improvements. For pathways, we have the Eastern Canal Shared Use Path, which is the pathway from Brown Road to Broadway, more in the city center. The focus on that project is related to the pedestrian crossings initially, and the whole stretch, when this project and then future projects are completed, amounts to about 5.75 miles. The Lehigh Crossing Shared Use Path in the northwest side of the city, and then Signal Butte and Elliott Park, the pathways associated with that park. In the cultural area, the projects include improvements to Dobson Library and Main Library. This is for programming space, and then for Dobson in particular, it includes some facade improvements. The federal building renovation, this includes leveraging some remaining funding from the 2012 park bond, as well as additional funding to make that facility available for public use. Phase 1 improvements at the IDEA Museum, and then a new library located in Southeast Mesa. As far as the total bond amount for Parks and Culture, it is $111 million. Transitioning to public safety, first with fire and medical, we have fire apparatus replacement as opposed to new apparatus that are tied to new stations. This is to replace the mainly pumpers and ladders as they've reached the end of their useful life. And then Fire Station 221 in the southeast area of Mesa, and then Fire Station 222 in the northeast area of Mesa. And this is the station that there's a possibility to co-locate it with a police substation. For police, two projects. First, an evidence facility to help with the evidence storage, as that is a challenge with the length of time that evidence needs to be stored. And then, as we mentioned, a police substation in the northeast area, possible co-location with a fire station. And then in communications, public safety fiber. This will allow us to connect several critical communications facilities, fire stations, the Regional Dispatch Center and Emergency Operations Center at 708 West Baseline, connect them on the city's fiber network. The total for public safety is $85 million. And for those who need additional project information as far as the details for each of these projects, as well as conceptual drawings, there's a link in this presentation, or as we discussed at the beginning, they can go to mesaaz.gov, City Hall, and then November 2018 election under the Office of Management and Budget. So,
Great.
and then are there any questions?
All right, thank you. The other questions we haven't talked about are 5, which is the charter requirement when you construct a sports facility. And the bed tax is question 6 to help fund the economic development,
1% increase on that.
1% increase in the bed tax. So information about those is also available on the city election website.
We'll make them all available, Mayor.
Okay.
I don't know if they're, I know the bonds on, we'll get the others up there.
We're working
quickly.
on it.
Once council approves this, we'll work on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad, because it's not on the agenda for upstairs, I thought it was important that we at least remind people what we're talking about upstairs. Council, anything else under agenda item 6 that we need to discuss? Yes.
Does item 6H says park and culture bonds, is that separated from the public safety bonds, or is that included as one question? How does that work?
Resolution.
Yeah, I think public safety is question 3 and parks and cultural is question 4.
Well, 6H and 6I are, go ahead.
Yeah.
You wanted to explain those?
Yeah, they're, Mayor and council, yeah, so they're separate votes. 6H and 6I are different. So the public safety is 6H and 6I is the parks and cultural. And they are separate resolutions, so if you would like to vote on them separately or pull them off consent separately, you can.
Council Whitaker, is the question then how that relates to 6L?
The attached spreadsheet for that agenda item just had them both together, so it confused me, but I understand what you're saying now. I didn't the attachment has both of them as one presentation.
They probably just added both of them, sorry about that.
Yeah, and then the other question I have on item 6L, what is that? Is that just saying we're gonna put those items, list those items on?
Specific count, election date.
Mayor and Council, there is, 6L identifies a series of things related to the election that are not included in any of the other resolutions. It's just sort of a generic call that encompasses deadlines for ballot arguments, election dates, early voting dates, that sort of thing.
I got it.
And then it just identifies how we will list the questions. That's the order the questions will be listed on the ballot.
I got it. So 6H is public safety, 6I is parks and cultural bonds, and then the 6J is the Mesa Place project, and 6K is the bed tax. Is that correct?
You got it.
Okay. I would like to request 6I, J, and K be removed from consent.
I, J, and K. So the library, museum, arts and cultural, Mesa Plays, and the bed tax.
Yes.
Okay. I had I, J, K.
IJK.
Okay.
Mayor and council, if I could just, I think you should also pull L, because if for some reason either I, J, or K do not pass, I think we would modify the call. It's a resolution, so it's not an ordinance, so we can modify it. We would strike out whichever questions weren't passed tonight, and strike it out before you vote on L, because I don't want to have a general call that lists 6 questions if it ends up just being, whatever, 4 questions,
Gotcha.
or whatever number it is.
Okay, so yeah, by necessity, if we pull any of the H, I, J, K, we need to pull L.
Correct, Mayor.
Okay. All right, I, J, K, and L will be off the consent. Any other questions on that? All right, any other questions related to tonight's agenda for upstairs? So those will be the only items off the consent. All right, let's move to the agenda for July the 9th. And the reason we're going through this now is because the study session for the following Thursday has been canceled, correct? So, council, anything under July the 9th's agenda? Item, we're not swearing anybody in, we just skipped straight to contracts as agenda item 3. 4 are various resolutions. 5, we are frankly following through on some of the things we're introducing tonight. The sign code and the sober living ordinance are being introduced tonight, and there'll be public action, public comment on, at the July 9th meeting. Anything on the July 9th agenda that you'd like additional information on?
On the sober living homes, I know that we tried to create the same as Payson, is that correct? Is that where the, Prescott, sorry. Is there anything, are there any large variances from what they did that we're doing, or would you say it's pretty much the same ordinance?
So it largely mimics the Prescott. We took a few things from Phoenix also, and a few things that we used the state statutory language in some places instead of the Prescott language, just to mimic the statute even more. But it largely mimics the, I mean,
All right, thanks, Jim.
you can almost parallel it in many places.
Okay, so for now, nothing off the consent agenda for the 9th. All right, moving back to the agenda for this meeting. Agenda item 2 is appointment to boards and committees. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Mr. Glover and Mr. Luna. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Agenda item 3 is acknowledge receipts of committee, acknowledge receipt of committee minutes. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Mr. Freeman, Mr. Glover. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Agenda item 4, here reports on meetings and conferences attended. Anything you'd like to share with us? If not, Mr. Brady, walk us through the schedule before we break for the end of July.
We have an executive session, yes. So we will have, as you mentioned, Mayor, no study session Thursday, July 5th. That's been canceled. Then we'll have our regular council meeting Monday, July 9th. Look again for another early start on that. I think we have 2 charter reviews, as well as, we have the executive session that day also, so we have an executive session. So there'll be, even though we're not meeting on Thursday, we will have an early start on Monday, July 9th. And then our next meeting following that will not be until Thursday, August 16th, and that'll be a study session. And then our first city council meeting after the break will be Monday, August 20th. And we want to invite everybody out to Arizona Celebration of Freedom, which begins 6 p.m. this Wednesday, July 4th. Come and enjoy us for fireworks, which will be again around 9:30 p.m. Also have lots of other activities taking place at the Mesa Convention Center. I think Mayor, what time is the swearing-in ceremony at?
The naturalization ceremony is at 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
So that's a great event. I don't know if you want to speak more to that, but that will be happening on July 4th also at the Convention Center. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Brady, let me give a plug for the naturalization ceremony. So that begins at 6:30. There'll be, the Mesa City Band will begin playing at 5:30, I understand, and there'll be music before, during, and after that ceremony. We are swearing in 325 new United States citizens from 38 different countries. So if you haven't been to one of these events, you should go. This is one of the most patriotic, inspiring experiences you'll have. It's a great way to celebrate the 4th of July. So again, that begins at 6:30, and then you're just walk out the door and you can participate in all the activities of the Celebration of Freedom. The fireworks display, I believe, begins at 9:30. Be one of the largest fireworks displays in the area. So it's a great place to spend 4th of July. There'll be lots of misting systems. Don't be afraid of the weather. Lots of opportunities, lots of activities inside, outside. So it's going to be a comfortable, enjoyable 4th of
I think
July.
this may be one of the coolest fourths we had. We've survived 115 and
Yeah.
110, so this should be a
Yeah.
breeze.
Yeah, I promise there won't be a dry eye during the naturalization ceremony. It's a very cool event. Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda then is item 6. That's to convene an executive session regarding the city clerk and city auditor's reviews. Is there a motion to do that? In a second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. We will convene an executive session.